One of the most fascinating things that you see connected from the Old Testament of Scripture to the New Testament of Scripture is Psalm 22 and 23. Now, Psalm 22 directly correlates to the life of Jesus Christ. And what do I mean by that? The beginning of Psalm 22 starts with, my God, why have you forsaken me?" That might ring a bell if you've ever read the New Testament and you've read the crucifixion of Jesus, because those are some of the very last words that he says in Scripture at his death on the cross. And what is really interesting is another piece of information that we get from the last words of Jesus in Scripture are that he says, "It is finished." Guess what Psalm 22 ends with? You guessed it. In the Hebrew, it lines up with the words, "It is finished." Now, the reason this is significant is because in Psalm 22, there's 4 or 5 different verses in that psalm that foreshadow what Jesus is going to go through. So as Jesus is on the cross, he is recounting this psalm. And the thing is, he's probably singing this psalm, right? Because they didn't have chapters or verse numbers in Jesus' time. That's not how it was. That was instituted way later. So if somebody wanted to reference a psalm or start a psalm, they'd start with the first verse. He starts with Psalm 22, and he ends Psalm 22. And upon his death, as he descends into hell, there's a very good chance that in Psalm 23 that followed, that is what he was singing and proclaiming as he went down to the place of the dead. I think that's a fascinating connection from the Old Testament to the New Testament, specifically in Psalms, because I don't know if you're like me, sometimes I struggle to connect with the poetic side of Psalms. And when you hear a psalm like that and see it perfectly connected to the life, death, and specifically resurrection of Jesus, man, that is a game changer for looking at Scripture. So anyway, go read Psalm 22 and 23, and then go read Jesus' crucifixion, and just see how beautifully these two things connect.